Today I want to answer a question that I recently got in my DM about writing. So the question that the person asked was, how do I even start writing when I'm staring at a blank page? Well, I found this question pretty funny because recently when I was writing my PhD thesis, I asked myself the same thing, like, where the hell does one start when you have a blank page in front of you and you need to summarize basically 4 or 5 years of work into a book? So I'm not sure what is the precise situation that person is in. However, I wanted to take advantage of that question and address this dreadful situation of you being facing a blank page and basically being so confused about where do you even start with your writing, or what do you even do when all that you have is just a blank page in front of you. So first of all, I want to share 3 tips that have been working for me whenever I'm staring a blank page, and also I've been sharing them with some of my clients and they found the methods to be pretty successful. So first of all, I want to do that, and then I want to explain what is the mindset that I found quite useful whenever you are facing that situation. But first of all, I want to share the 3 tips with you. So first of all, the question that the sentence that I hear very often from my clients is, I hate staring at the blank page because it's so intimidating and I don't even know where to start from. So the first thing that I tell them is that there is actually no need to start from a blank page. I'm sure that you have written reports before, or maybe papers or proposals. So if blank pages are so intimidating, why don't you just take a template from the proposal or the report that you have already written and use it basically as a framework and as a template for your new work. So this is in the case that if you already did something similar. However, if this is not the case, if it's the first proposal or first research report that you are writing, you can just browse online and Google it, and there are several templates several templates that basically use the report or proposal format. So first of all, there is no need to start from a blank page. You can start from an already existing template that should help you with this blank page scare that you're experiencing. It happens to me all the time that I'm like, okay, I cannot start from a blank page, so I just prefer to take a template or something that I have already written before and use it basically as a framework whenever I have to write something new. So this is the first tip. If you don't want to start from a blank page, there is no need to, just use a template. The second one would be, okay, now that you have a template, what do you do with the template? I would say that the first thing that I do is to always put a title on my document and also think a little bit about the structure of the document that I'm writing. For example, if you're writing a project proposal, the project proposal for sure is going to have some background information, some project proposal in terms of what is the problem that you are going to solve, how you are going to solve it, what are some conclusions that you expect, what are some findings that you are expecting to obtain, and then finally you can provide maybe a conclusion or a summary or whatever it is that it's required by your format. If you're writing a thesis, you can start with structuring the chapters and actually giving titles to the headings and to the chapters, because this sort of gives you the sense of, okay, I've got this. It is not so scary as I thought, because at least, even though you haven't written much yet, at least you have this sense of what needs to be written and what needs to be filled in with sentences and actual writing. At least you have this structure. So if you don't know where to start, a structure is usually a very, very good place to begin with, because it gives you this sense of accomplishment early on, and the entire process of writing seems a little bit less intimidating. Moreover, whenever you develop this kind of structure, what it offers you is the roadmap of writing. So for example, if you already, let's say that you're writing a thesis, for example, this is quite a lot of work and it will take several months to finish. So if you at least know what are the chapters that you're supposed to write, what are the sections that you're supposed to write, what are the subsections or the paragraphs or figures, then it's much easier to actually sit down and write than just imagine what needs to be written and think time and time again about the structure of the entire document. One example, just briefly, I want to say one example of that. For example, if you are writing some piece of work that you're not quite familiar with, or that you are not really sure what you need to write, what needs to be included or what needs to be removed, most of the writing sessions, at least from my experience and from my clients' experience, are spent by thinking what needs to be written. So whenever you develop this kind of structure before you even start writing, you kind of give yourself this roadmap that you are actually going to use when writing. So you don't use your writing sessions as what do I need to write sessions, but you actually spend them writing because you have clear sections, clear chapters, clear section headings that you need to address whenever you are actually writing. So this would be the second tip. So it would be to structure your work first. And now moving on to the third tip that is quite useful is to describe each of the sections. So let's say that now you started from a template, you filled in your template with your structure that is suitable for your piece of writing, and now you have to actually do the writing. So there is one step between those two things, so the structure and the writing itself, which I really like to use because it gives me a little bit of a sense. First, it gives me a sense of accomplishment, which is something that we can all use whenever we are writing something that we don't really like. And second, it gives me clarity on what actually needs to be written. For example, imagine that you are working on a document and you have section 1. So what I would say, okay, now section 1, I would aim to describe what this section is actually going to be about. This description, when I say describe it, the description is actually not writing at all. So the goal here is not to write, it's just to describe. For example, section 1, discuss about the effect that this has on that. Just that. Just you write a sentence that actually provides you enough information so whenever you feel like writing or whenever you actually need to do the writing itself, then you can always come back and you know that section 1 contains the discussion about the effect of X on Y, for example. So this is something quite useful to describe what are you going to write before you are actually writing it. So just to recapitulate, first of all, if you're scared of starting from a blank page, don't start from a blank page, use a template. Second, once you've chosen your template, make sure to fill it in with your structure. Think about the structure of your document, about the titles, about the sections, the chapters, or whatever needs to be written inside of your document, project proposal, or report. And third, for every section that you determined in the structure part, you make a description. Make just a brief description that is going to serve you as a guideline once you actually do the writing. So this, first of all, for the lady who asked in the DM about how to actually avoid the scare whenever you're facing a blank page. So this would be the 3 tips that I can say that worked quite well both for me and for my clients. But now I want to discuss quite shortly a little bit of the mindset behind the fear of the blank page. So usually when I talk to my clients and I ask them, okay, all right, now we figured out how we can avoid this fear, but what are you actually afraid of? Is it the intimidation of having to produce a piece of writing or a document, an entire document that has to make sense? or is it actually the confusion about what needs to be written? And in 100% of the times, the answer was that the problem is the confusion. So this overwhelming feeling of having to put all of your thoughts into words and in a piece of paper or a document that has to be read by other people. So I want to talk a little bit about the mindset behind it, and the thing that actually makes us afraid, it's not the writing itself, but the fact that we are thinking about having to write. So I want to share a brief experience of mine when I first started writing my PhD thesis. So as I said, it's quite an extensive document, so it's an entire book basically summarizing your entire work that you've been doing through 4 or 5 years, or even more for some people. So where do you even start? And the problem is not with the fact that you have to write something. The problem is more often than not the fact that you have to think about how to structure your thoughts so they are coherent on paper. And I think that if you are a person who doesn't have a lot of experience with writing, or you have some difficulty with communication, especially when it comes to communicating scientific work or STEM work, tech work, IT, whatever is the sector that you're working in, STEM people, we are quite used to using a lot of jargon, a lot of very jargon and jargon-heavy language, right? That more or less we understand and no one else. If you think a little bit about the people outside of your narrow field, probably no one else is going to understand you. So the problem lies, the mindset problem behind all of that, it's actually the fact of how the hell do I put all of these thoughts into sentences that actually make sense. From my experience, it's not something that the shift cannot be done super quickly. It's actually something that needs to be addressed during an extensive period of time. I believe that if you want to improve your writing skills or your communication skills in general, especially when it comes to this very technical communication, you need to have at least 3 months of training or of really thinking about the things that you're doing, ideally with an expert, with someone who is a coach who is following you through that process and can actually guide you towards a more productive writing session, or towards a more productive writing session or productive communication in general, and at the end of the day, clear communication, which is what we are, in order to make sure that they can go from complete confusion when it comes to writing or presenting or communicating in general to a very, very clear path and this clarity that whenever they need to communicate, whether in written format or in verbal format or in presentation, they are 100% sure that they can do so in basically no time. So we structure the entire works so that it can be presented and written pretty fast with the techniques that we learn in the program. So these are the 3 tips that I wanted to share, and this a little bit of a question that I wanted to ask regarding the mindset and regarding the entire background that one has to do and to achieve in order to have a productive writing session. So as always, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments or send me a direct message. I would be more than happy to help you, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye bye.